Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to another session of ArtSpeak Online. I'm Boots Herrera, Director and Chief Curator of the Ateneo Art Gallery. The past months on quarantine has led us to take advantage of technology to offer new ways of engaging with artists and the public. ArtSpeak sessions have seen more views and engagements than we have ever experienced under normal conditions. The art community has taken advantage of this further by expanding the scope of the program content and move our focus from Metro Manila to the vibrant art scenes in other parts of the country. This month, for example, the longest running art biennale to date, the Viva XCon in the Visayas, was launched using online platforms, which allows them to expand programs and its duration. Today, we are pleased to have with us here in our ArtSpeak Online session a group of artists and cultural workers who are based or actively collaborated with the community of the Cordillera region, many of them living in Baguio City. Recently given the title of the Creative City by UNESCO, Baguio continues to change and respond to the growing cultural tourism industry, while simultaneously addressing the needs of its indigenous and local communities. Artists and cultural workers have an integral role in making sense of the changes, challenges, and dilemmas faced, particularly during the time of the pandemic. Early this year, specifically in March 8th, a few days before the lockdown, Sagada was the site of an important, although under the radar, art event. This was the launch of Kabil Biligan, Reimagined, the restoration and reimagination of Santiago Bose's mural of the same title. The mural was created in the early 1980s and has a span of 50 feet wide, painted on the facade of St. Mary's School in Sagada. This restoration project was a brainchild of Boy Yu, a close friend of Santi and many Baguio artists. On a personal note, this day marked my first visit to Sagada, my first time to drive through the winding roads of Halsema Highway. Although I was not alone, I was with two artists, Angel Velasco Shaw and MMU. What made it more memorable was seeing Boss's mural and the community of artists that it had brought together. I then came to realize that the strength and deep bonds of this community had always been there, even before this project in Sagada. It is partly for this reason that we thought of launching the regional focus of ArtSpeak Online with a panel of artists from the Cordillera region. In early October, discussions began. I asked Kawayan de Guia and Rocky Cajigan to gather a few artists in a panel that would give an overview of the contemporary art scene. This session does not intend to be a complete representation, and hopefully it will be the first of more conversations. Aside from Kawayan and Rocky, today's panel includes Tommy Hafalla, Perry Mamaril, Bong Sanchez, Rica Concepcion, Nona Garcia, and Gail Vicente. Fortunately, today's moderator had made plans early on to spend the last 2 months of 2020 in Baguio. Having been an adopted daughter of Baguio City, it is just fitting that we have Angel Velasco Shaw, who was requested by Rocky actually to guide the conversation with our guest artists, most of them also her close friends. So now I hand the virtual stage to Angel. Angel?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Butz, for that wonderful introduction. Um, I'd like to greet everyone with a very big hello. Um, and I do hope that everyone is well and staying safe. Um, this is a momentous occasion in so many ways, and I'm very, very happy to be a part of this. For a number of reasons. First and foremost, because 32 years ago, I had the great pleasure of meeting Santiago Bose and many of the original members of the Baguio Arts Guild in 1988. And from that moment on, my entire life had literally changed. I somehow, I guess, through the incredible generosity and welcoming spirit of the Baguio arts community, decided that, or I didn't decide, but it is something that those experiences over the years led me to always come back. And in so many ways, Baguio is a hub. It's not just a hub within the archipelago, but it's a hub that has become known in certain circles throughout the world. So I welcome you all to join in a conversation with, depending on how you look at generations, what we have here is 3 to 5 generations. So I hope that all of you that are watching us will participate in this conversation. I'm very, very happy to be amongst people, the artists and cultural workers whose lives are their art and their art is their lives. So I'd like to welcome Rica Concepcion, who is going to begin our discussion today. Hi, Rica. Just a little bit of word to the audience. We're going to try to keep this as open and conversational as possible. And we'd like to really invite you all to submit your questions to the artists so that they can interact with all of you. Okay, Rica?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, so I'm Rica Concepcion, and I'm part of the reimagination of the mural of Santi. I met Santi many years ago, and yeah, so this is the original work of Santi, and that's the state of the work of the mural at St. Mary's in Sagada. This is Santiago Bose. So we're going to see the St. Mary's. So this was the state when we got there in January. And these are some of the images that are in the mural, but they're very small. They're really, really very small. And this is the transfer process of Santi. Images of old Sagada during that time. Next, please. That's also Santi's. Next, please. Okay, here, the bigger one, the village, is actually already drawn by, I think, Bong Sanchez. And then also he's the one painting the ceiling on the right down image. Next, please. So these are images of the artist working on the mural. Rocky, Nona, and Kawayan. This is Randy, Bong, and of course the tiles, which are, some of them came from Sigrid and Tessie of Sagada Pottery. Next, please. This is Perry installing the lights. And these are images of the other artists who are part of the mural. Santos, Leonard, Himalaya. This is a big piece of work done by Leonard, and it was installed on the doors. This is Leonard also helping, retouching. So some more images of while restoring the mural. And of course, with the new technology, they're also basing it from the cell phone. So, so you see, there are many, many participants, many artists just helping each other in creating or restoring the mural. So this is the finished product. And this is the artist photo in front of the mural. And this is the installation. After the mural, we had a concert, but the producer also requested some artists to do installations. So we have photos of those. Jed Alangi, Bong Sanchez's work. This is Tessie and of Sagada Pottery and Sigrid. And then Kigao Rosimo on the right, his works. Rocky's works, Perry's, and Tommy Hafalla.
Bong, are you there? So Bong Sanchez is an artist who was based in Baguio for, I think that's where he's from. And then he eventually moved up to Sagada, I believe 7 years ago. And, you know, one of the things that's so beautiful about the way that the artists have been organized here for this talk or brought together is that they all converge from different places. And have come and gone out of the scene. Rica Concepcion is also a filmmaker. She and her late husband, Egay Navarro, have been documenting all the Baguio arts guilds, festivals, all kinds of events in Baguio, Manila, the Cordillera region that have brought everyone together. So Bong, hello.
Hello. Go say, nasdam ta amin from Sagada. Hello everyone. Kamusta sa lahat? Okay naman. After the mural, the reimagining, we also the continuation of the imagination. So after and before the pandemic, we almost here in Sagada nagkasama uli kami lahat. Kaya yun meron yung nagkuhan sa amin, tumulong na i-continue from hindi lang matatapos sa mural lahat. So yun. After that, namin nagawang project dito sa Sagada, like the rehabilitation of Dapay, yung our mother Dapay na dito sa Sagada, called the Malingab. And then after that, pagkatapos niyon, and then everyone bumalik kami sa every studio. This is my work. This is also the continuation of, in a way, the man sa sentro po, ito po yung like, kasi after during the COVID, meron na tinatawag dong bagnas na ginawa namin. And then, from that bagnas, meron na from ritual. The most of yung sinasabi ng mga elders dito, or yung pambun na tinatawag sa dapay, halos nasasabi nila yung parang gamot sa COVID or pag-alis ng COVID dito sa Sagada. Yun palagi nila sinasabi sa ritual. Or hindi naman kahit nung sa bagnas na yun, everyday na sa sosawan nila sinasabi rin dito. Kahit ano, kahit na ritual. And then yun, from my work, lahat nung that time of COVID time, bari pinakis ko sa isang work. So ito ngayon, nung nasa figure, ito po yung kwan namin, pambon na si Jaime Umangan, yung nasa sentro po. And then from the image na yung nasa loob, yun po yung mga ancestors.
Bong, could you share with the audience a little bit about the kind of ritual that you did, that you and the elders performed?
Pardon?
Could you maybe share with the audience a little bit about the kind of ritual that you performed?
Maybe talk.
Pwede pong,
Tommy?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, everyone. This is Tommy Hafalla, who's one of the original Baguio Arts Guild members. He is someone who has been very influential across the generations with young artists and not just photographers. Tommy is a phenomenal photographer, self-taught, who has done a number of workshops also in Sagada, in Kalinga, throughout the Cordillera region. And Tommy is someone who absolutely bridges traditional with contemporary. So Tommy?
Yes, I just want to add on, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to add to Bong's, your question to Bong.
Mhm.
Again, the Bagnas, actually the origin of Bagnas is connected to warfare. And it is a non-violent attack to a warfare. Like they do it through prayers and invocation. That's to answer your question to Bong, because I think Bong did not get it. I mean, like, what rituals did you do with the elders? And he mentioned about Bagnas, but actually the origin of Bagnas is about warfare and started way back. That they don't what do you call, encounter warfare, actual warfare, but they invoke the divine intervention, the powers of the elders to deal with the warfare. And now, I mean, like you could see this part of the Bagnas, it's called the Iyag. It's the first part of the, and not everyone could witness this part of the ritual because it is very, I mean, very close to all the elders. And this is the main day of the Bagnas. If you could see the slides right now, what is it? You could see Maguilang and all the elders. And if you notice the background, the grass behind it, it's not just, I mean, it's called the Padao. The Padao, like in Santi's painting, I mean, now, the Padao, it's honoring the enemy, the dead, that, I mean, like his gallantry in warfare, that your spirit is an ally to us, not an enemy.
Nice.
Tommy, do you want to share a little bit about folks, you know, as Butz mentioned, these people are like family to me. So
Sorry.
if you could,
Excuse me.
huh? Oh,
Could you please allow Bong to answer in Filipino?
Yeah.
Not in English. Let him answer in Filipino, Kankanay,
Yes, he
Ilocano.
can. He can
Sure,
answer
sure.
in Filipino, in
Yeah,
Kangkanay.
having
If
a hard-
someone can translate also, help us translate.
Yes, I will. I will. I mean, I will help in whatever I can. I mean, whichever I can to translate. Yes.
Sige,
That's
sige.
why I was answering the question that Angel gave Bong. I mean, like about the Bagnas, what rituals were they were performing? That's why I interjected into. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Manong.
Sige, maybe we can go back to Bong.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Bong and Rica, during the lockdown, you continued creating more installations, I believe, in Sagada, no?
Yes.
And these were what was it? There were some mosaics. Unfortunately, we don't have photographs, no? And some,
Yeah.
can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so we were commissioned, the Bong and James Wandag was commissioned to actually rehabilitate the Dapay. It's called the Malingab Dapay. I think it's like a main Dapay in Sagada. And of course, because the Dapay itself is very sacred, you cannot touch it. But they conceptualized it around the area where people usually dance. They thought of fixing that up and putting like shades for women who attend the Begnas or events there. So Bong designed something, and he used also the style installation, just like what we saw in the mural where we used a lot of the pottery, broken pottery styles that were installed as a tree. So Bong and James actually did that.
Nice.
And then after that also, the first one that we did is actually like an installation inside the proposed venue of the art center of Sagada.
Yun.
Yun. So
No.
Bong, ikaw na magkwento nung iba. Kasi ikaw yung artist.
Ngayon po, yun, ginagawa na rin namin unti-unti yung kwan dito sa Sagada, like yung art center. Doon nakaganap ko yun sa Danonoy. So, yung mga material na natira nung sa Malingab, kasi sa dami, kaya nag-order na kaming madami. Galing sa Ilocos yung iba. So, yun. Yung mga material na natira doon, tinutuloy namin ngayon para continuation pa rin sa art center. Kinoconnect namin lahat rin yung lahat nung, para dire-diretso na lahat, para yung mga kasama namin dito sa Sagada, hindi sila makawalan ng trabaho.
I think
Nangyayari ngayon.
I think the art center was a spin-off from well, the beautiful activities that happened as we were doing the the mural, and I think Boy was really excited about well, what it wouldn't be preserving, but to continue this energy and to focus on Cordillera art, not only visual but also music, dance, all these in a way school of living traditions, no? And well, unfortunately, we haven't got me. Where's Rocky? I don't see Rocky. Also here, because we've been going this long distance there. So between Baguio, Sagada, Trinidad, and
Right.
Manila, hindi tayo nagkakasynchronize pa. But I think, boy, I think that's really a great idea. And hopefully, and hopefully we can get our asses together, get that thing running.
Tommy, just to
Yes.
go back to you, if you know, because I think this is, again, just so that the audience has an idea of the very organic nature of the community formations in Baguio and throughout the Cordillera, specifically in Sagada. So Tommy, maybe you could share with us a little bit more about the work that you've been doing over the past 30 plus years with your photography within community engagements. And we could keep showing some of your work while you speak.
Yes. Well, Sagada, when I first went to Sagada, it was in 1974. But I did without a camera, I mean, like, and it happened. It dawned on me that I think I need to go back to Sagada and this place one of these days. The following year. Here's actually the photograph is one of my first photograph of a Bagnas. This is Lakay Pagdasan Dapay Akikis, in where I am a member. And he's one of the elders of the Dapay. He's one of the main elder. As you can see, maybe I could describe just a minor detail on the photograph. On his right hand, if you will notice, you have the tangkil, or the armband. You're not, I mean, if you're not allowed to just wear an armband, I mean, for show. It represents so much that the tangkil, you have the honor to wear it when you reach maturity in the community. Like, he is an elder. He went through all the cycle, most of the cycle of rituals, which means he had children who got married and who separated from him. So it represents that it's a sign of wisdom. And if you see the image of a tinagtago, and again, it is mistaken. This is part of our initial discussion about the necessary fiction. This is a very similar image of abulur, which is they call it in Ifugao, but in the mountain province western side, they call it a tinagtago. If you have a tangkil with a tinagtago on it, which means you were involved in a warfare in which you have killed someone from the other side. So you just don't use those things for show. It means a lot. And again, with the buaya, the necklace, again, not everyone is entitled to wear those things. The buaya meaning to say a crocodile. That one piece of that necklace is the tooth of a crocodile. That which means that you went through life. You've earned the knowledge to perform the rituals and to invoke spirits of the ancestors.
I think I think during this talk, I think one thing we're really talking about is the cultural sensitivities around objects and rituals that sometimes get a bit commodified because of well, pop culture Facebook and whatever. And
Tourism.
huh?
Tourism.
Definitely tourism.
It gets exotized. Yeah, sometimes I call it ethno-tourism.
What?
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to offend anyone, but that's how I look at it. It's ethno-tourism. I mean, like you use anything that represents. I mean, like it's a misrepresentation sometimes. That's why I am concerned about what's happening. Cornel Kappa.
I think that's actually something that all of you have in common with each other is the tremendous respect that each of you show in your works. And in your photographs, Tommy, it's quite evident, right, that you are inside the community. You are a part of them. And, you know, one thing that I've always loved is the way that you share the images, you give them back to the people that you're photographing, which is not that common of a practice. So if you want to keep showing us more of the images.
Yeah, the next slide. Thank you for. This is part of the ritual called the Dangte. It is done every after 10 years. Actually, it's the reestablishing of Sagada's boundaries, and the deeper meaning of Dangte is the call. It's called the call from people who left Sagada to come and visit. And every time they perform this ritual called the Dangte, after they perform the Dangte, I mean, people would be starting. It's just, I call it we connoted the thing called isip call with Kawayan. It's by invoking the spirits. I mean, like, because text messages were not available then. I mean, like ritual, it works. And here, again, in the representation, in this image, you would see someone with a duwal. They call it the headdress with 4 poles of feathers, and which represent that he performed it's the apex. Means he was able to perform all the rituals that in Sagada, and only a few of these elders would reach called the tugma. It's called the tugma. You are entitled to be wearing these four poles. I mean, like of feathers. And again, if you could see the man behind him is only using one. They call it the bayuyok, which means his wife passed away already. Is a widow. So those are small details that, I mean, like sometimes it gets misrepresented. The same thing here with this is Lakay Lino Kapuyan, the late Lino Kapuyan. Here, in this image, very particular, in this image, they call it the Tadak di Gangsa. It's the dance of the gongs. They don't just bring out the gongs without invoking the spirits again. That we have to bring out these gongs for a purpose. Again, I will be interjecting again the necessary fiction that a lot of things are happening here. That the gong, sometimes they use it for protest on the streets. Now it's a desecration. Actually, it's a desecration of the gongs, the spirits of the gong, because it's one major ritual in which they perform a ritual. They even butcher a chicken just to bring out gongs for a ritual.
That doesn't refer naman to the whole of Cordillera, no?
Almost all.
Mm-mm.
In Kalinga, they have to perform. If there's a wedding, they even butcher more in Kalinga to bring out gongs. That's why my concern sometimes, I mean, like, well, as the tendencies of Igorots or Ikalinga or Ifugao, just to avoid conflict, they would say to scholars that, yes, you could use it. I mean, like with the incessant questioning of some scholars, all they have to be, I mean, you would be receiving an answer of affirmation.
But okay, so let's say maybe this shift or the use of gong started maybe during the time of the Americans when it was used as a sort of showcase.
Yes.
And
yes.
then maybe that also is now, well, that is now tradition, I guess.
Yes.
Well, they were forced to perform during the 1904 World's Fair in the quote-unquote Igorot Village,
Yes.
which was the biggest pavilion in the St. Louis World's Fair. And I think that those kinds of misrepresentations of the indigenous peoples caused repercussions that led to stereotypes. And again, I think that as we move along in the conversation, the audience will get a chance to see how each of you have tried to address these misrepresentations, and as Tommy is referring to them, necessary fictions. Yeah, in so many ways. Right, I think you are. I think all of you do, actually. Are there more images? Because we can segue into the, in some ways, yeah. Oh, a young Tommy.
This was during a Bignas of 1986. Here are the main heads of the, I mean, like, I call them the power force of, this is on the right side, far right, my right is Busaing, Lakay Busaing. The center one is Pagdasan, and the one on the left is Lakay Lino. They're the men of knowledge of Sagada then. And that's on my left, on the photograph is Bernard Capuyan, which is related to Lino Capuyan. And that's me. And at the back is the hat that they gave me before, but I kind of rejected the idea because it created the conflict. Because I'm not from Sagada, and why are they giving you a hat by the old man Bayang? The Padao of Dapay Akikis. You could see the tangkil. That is my buaya, and that is my takba. And they hang those takba, the ritual baskets, and the after the ritual of any ritual, Bignas, the Dangte.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Tommy.
Okay, so Kitma lockdown.
Woohoo! Yeah, so while you were up there fixing the pies and and creating installations. We down here were also having our own coup d'etat plot, writing scripts. Here's Tatay and Raya and Moira Lang, I guess, discussing about the film. But how many were we, Gail?
13?
We were 13. So the whole original batch from Sagada, the Sagada mural, when we got down to Baguio, we were completely shut down also altogether with Perry. Where's Perry? Why is Perry not on our video?
Perry.
But anyway, let's go. Nona here making bread. She became a baker for 2 months. Nona, please.
Next is
Playing cards, you know.
so,
Cutting hair. Nona cutting hair
doing work.
and also working.
It's Romel, one of her.
Dancing. The few times we didn't have an alcohol ban, we took advantage of it. And here you see Gail making the moves.
Apoy.
Buying loads of food, feeding 13 people, maybe more than 13 people, 3 times a day. While we were buying sacks of rice, you know, sacks of
Nona and I
kamote.
were computing the meals we shared, the breads we shared, the drinks we shared.
And of
during
course,
lockdown.
Perry was with us, so we
had a resident chef.
We had a really we had our gourmet. I think you can.
Yeah, some of the activities we did together.
This was a drawing workshop, right?
Yes.
Teaching filmmakers how to draw.
So that's Raya and Moira. Next.
And this is Nona working on her piece for your show, Angel.
16 at Art Informal. Nona, do you want to share a little bit about that fabulous painting?
Mention it briefly maybe after the lockdown photos, no?
Okay.
We'll sige, next na lang. Next, yan. So one of our many gatherings. Next.
Everyone had their
Nona.
birthday.
Yeah.
Also.
Nona, next.
And this Hakao now.
Being put out with a pig.
Lockdown in a pot.
Hakao is ready for you, Perry.
Okay.
Hakao is from Sagada, by the way. There you
From
see.
Sagada, yeah.
From Bong.
From Bong.
Yeah, mama. Mother pig.
Yeah, kids every day. Next.
These are the students of ano. Wow. We also had several offering rituals here during the lockdown. I believe this was when we
lockdown. That's the pine tree ritual.
Asking permission from the tree to to cut it. I think Bong, you had one a while ago, right?
Oh, kanina. Kinala boy dun sa taas, 2 tree. So nag-ritual kami rin nung umaga. Pare-parehas rin. Yan, wala kang picture doon. Picture kamay niya.
Oh.
Just me and Moira at the Baguio market. One of the I guess one of the concerns we had here in Baguio during lockdown was the privatization of the Baguio market. So
yeah, SM wants to get the market and well, I think
rehabilitate it.
and so this is one of the first people concerned, which is Moira and Gail. They immediately you know. Anyway, we can talk more about that later.
Yeah. So yeah, Nona will share some of her works and how she rooted her practice in Baguio the past few years.
Hello, guys.
Nona.
The image on the slide now is from my first show here in Baguio. I moved here 7 years ago. So this was my first show here at the Bencab Museum. So I wanted to work with his collection. Bencab has a lot of Cordilleran artifacts in his collection. So I wanted to interact with his collection and with the space itself. So
but Nona, you made similar work to this before, di ba? Yung Santo.
Previous to this, the first series that I did that was like the basis of this work was X-rays of saints that I did maybe 10 years ago or more. And then when I moved here, I think this show was my way of getting to know the culture I'm moving into. Like
Saying hello.
So it was an installation of X-rays of the Cordilleran artifacts of Bencabs, and also mixed with collections also of Kawayan and Tatay.
Recovery yung pangalan nito, no?
Right.
Remember, we all came up to Baguio.
Wow. And this one.
This is Halo from 2015 at Black Gallery. So I X-rayed lots of animal bones, corals, and formed it into a mandala.
It was also shown in the APT in Australia.
Nona, could you maybe share with us a little bit about, what it's like for you to work in this kind of mixed media using the X-ray as a format, and it's quite beautiful, the objects and artifacts that you chose to X-ray in these different bodies of work. Could you share with the audience like some of the things that you saw in the X-rays, which we may not necessarily be able to see that clearly? Like in the first one of Ben, of the altar, the first image. Just go backwards. There.
So when I first X-rayed the objects, I was really quite hesitant because, of course, I'm not from here in Baguio. I just moved here then. So I was really sort of conscious about like handling the objects per se. But I knew I was doing it in good intentions. So yeah, and I talked to the elders like Tommy and Tatay also about this. But I don't know if the X-rays show the materials used, like the wood, the bones, and the materiality of the objects itself. But I think what I'm trying to capture also is what is unseen. Like I'm trying to capture the spirit that's in the objects that may not be seen in even the X-rays. But I think that's what I'm trying to attempt to show or to discover myself.
Which I think in so many ways ties back around to some of the wonderful explanations about the different, what's the name of the armband? You know, and again, about certain kinds of what you can't see. And that, you know, if you could move forward again, Esty. So, you know, when you look at the different ways that you can, what you see and what you don't see is exactly what we live in our cultures. And I think that, again, you know, just to come back around to the subject at hand, one of the most beautiful things about the ways that the artists and cultural workers in Baguio have worked in tandem with the communities in the Cordillera, you can see it coming out in the work, right? And you're bringing it out into larger audiences, which I think is really quite significant. That's not stereotyping these cultures that are alive and they're thriving. And, you know, again, I feel like there's a lot of respect that you're seeing in the work, right?
I think Tommy wants to say something. He's raising his hand. Yes, Tommy.
If I may, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
If I may, every ritual here in the Cordillera, looking at Nona's work, is for the unseen first. That's why I look at Nona's work like the X-ray when she was asking questions about the unseen. It got me because every ritual here in the Cordillera would be offered to the unseen first before, I mean, the living.
Ancestral spirits.
Exactly. In the unseen. It's the unseen spirit. Thank you.
Galing. Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you for sharing that. Yeah.
Ito, untitled pine tree. This next batch of work, what is it? Untitled?
Untitled Pine Tree. These are detail shots of an installation I made for APT. The title is Untitled Pine Tree. These are painted fragments of a pine tree that was cut in
Not far from
here, from our neighbors.
So it's a portrait of a tree.
Or a whole forest.
Or a whole forest. The dancing bulol.
I made this painting during lockdown for a show that Angel was curating in Art Informal. So we came from Sagada and went straight to Baguio to be locked down here. and this image is actually from Sagada. So I think it was very apt for the time during lockdown that like all the energy also, I mean energy from the Sagada mural coming home here and painting this scene from Sagada.
Parang reminiscent.
And also like feelings during the lockdown.
What's the size of that painting, Nona?
That's 6.5 by 10 feet.
So it's like you really want to move into the painting. It's like you're part of that landscape.
I think
beautiful.
I felt like I was expanding like that particular moment into a bigger picture.
Rocky. Meanwhile, Rocky.
Meanwhile, hi. Meanwhile.
So Rocky, you would be like the third or fourth generation within
no
this
idea.
Convergences.
Right. Yes, I guess. So I want to talk about two particular works. One just before lockdown, which is this project that I did for UP Vargas, for the curatorial workshops, exhibitions, under Carlos Quijón. So yes, yes. So this work in particular is about trying to reach back to what it means as someone who grew up in Bontoc but then moved to the city. And then so this installation is based off of Albert Jenks's 1902 photograph of the rice terraces right before you enter Bontoc. So what we did, me and my friends, was to gather mud samples from each of the rice fields that are still based on the photo. So yeah, so we gathered 64, I think. Tama ba, Gail? Gail helped me install this.
For fields.
For
Yeah, mud samples from
Those
next
fields.
slide. Yes, from the rice fields. Next slide. So yes, so that's you see where we plotted the GPS points for each of the mud samples from the rice terraces. It's sort of like the whole process of it is sort of like trying to understand where you're from as an immigrant here in, not really in Baguio, but here in Metro Baguio, and what that means, and what Baguio means, and what Bontoc means, and what indigenous means, and how that has changed, and what you're trying to represent or misrepresent, or what decisions you make coming from a community. To go back to Tommy saying that a lot has changed, even the bulos at Ben Cab's museum are misrepresented in some way, and what these means being in Baguio, and what these questions mean to artists. Sorry.
Complicated.
As always. And then after that work, we moved on to working with Kawayan and Boyu and the rest to reimagine and work on the mural. After that, we went to Kitmanga during the lockdown and then stayed there a few days, and then pumunta kami ni Randy sa San Juan just for a few days supposedly, and then it went on for 2.5 months. Yeah ka, Perry. Tapos artwork. And in that process, next slide, I came up with these paintings. It's a series of paintings of the wet market produce that we got during the lockdown. Because in the beginning of the lockdown, it was hard for everyone across the country to get access to food. So whatever was, and then we were in lockdown, so there were no materials. There was barely any paint or brushes or anything to do. The job that was to be done in San Juan was already done. Wait, so parang anong gagawin, ganyan. So I did a series of paintings. And then, yes. And then after that,
Were these relief?
Sorry?
Were these relief?
No, they're not.
No, I don't know.
No.
Sorry, I don't know.
They're paintings lang of.
Good. I mean.
No. Hindi. We parang kung ano man yung nabili sa market, because it was also hard for everyone to just go to the market, right? So only one person was designated to go to the market with a particular permit. And so whatever was coming in from the market, if I liked how it looked and how it, parang ganyan, I took a photo of it and then painted each of them. Yeah. So, and then eventually, Patrick Flores asked me and a few artists to be part of this digital archive project and annotate whatever we did during the lockdown. So I posted each of the images when they were done on Facebook and Instagram, and then sort of like reimagined what would have been a great research project if it had been one, and did fictional, not really fictional, but I made them up after the fact of the experience. So parang I made field notes on each of the days that I posted each painting on Instagram, sort of like to try and understand the whole lockdown event, and to respond to the things that were happening around the country at the same time. Yeah. So yes, yeah. But the whole process, I guess, is also, it takes back to, sorry?
Anyway.
Yeah.
What?
The whole process of this, I think, harks back to them to Access Art Project, and then eventually on to Sagada, and the things that I was lucky to be a part of, working with Kawayan in 2010 all the way to last year, and then this year. So parang this whole research process and understanding communities and what that means. That's all.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thank you, Rocky.
Thanks.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Gail.
Hi.
So maybe siguro I'll introduce myself on a personal note also, like Roots. I went up to Sagada also for the mural to be with friends and for the unveiling of Santi's mural, which they restored. So I was on the bus with filmmakers Raya Martin and Moira Lam. We thought we were gonna be there for 2 days, and after 8 months, I'm still here. Somewhere along the way, we decided to stay. So that was the time Manila was transitioning into lockdown and quarantine. So it was really right in the smack of it. So Moira, Raya, and I were here in Kitma. So we're part of the Kitma lockdown. For months, we were just, we were locked down here together, doing a lot of projects together. Raya actually did his spirit film, which he, I think he entitled it Monologue, which was done with the support of the Asia Film Archive. And then Moira, during lockdown, has been also working on a few series on Philippine dark comedy, ganyan. And actually, Moira now is a resident
of Baguio.
Resident Baguio girl. Yan. So me naman, I'm an artist and archivist from Manila. So during lockdown here, this was one of my major projects, was to organize a library here in Kitma for the community, for compound, for everyone, especially the kids, I think.
Gail just came back from New York also with MM for an ACC grant about archiving, no?
Archiving and conservation.
And conservation.
So yeah, and actually that was just a few months ago before lockdown, which is also a little weird because New York was really badly hit by the pandemic. And sometimes parang it still surprises me na just a few months ago we were just there doing our research. And now I found myself locked down with my friends here, and so
we put her to work, basically.
Naging useful. So organizing the archive also of Nona, Cow. I mean, During along the way fixing the books, I also discovered a lot of Kawayan's books on the Cordillera, sa Ifugao. So medyo nakakaano rin, parang
na-incorporate ka.
So this is the archive section that we're also organizing. It's a work in progress. So next lang.
Yun, no?
Yan, medyo maayos. And next slide. Yan, the kids.
These are the first members
Of our library.
of our library.
So yeah, and some of a few projects we've been doing. Actually, I'm also working on trying to be part of the archive of Tatay.
Yay!
With next slide siguro.
It's the messiest archive you can find next to Rica. But we're still messier than Rica.
So next please. So this is Abby. He's Tatay Kidlat's editor, and she's also the one in making an inventory of Tatay's archive. So we're trying to work on assessing the collection right now, and planning to bring a community archiving workshop to Baguio, so we can create a workflow and involve more people sa archive. It's also a very parang like Kawayan and I were discussing, there's so much material that has to be really like given attention to.
Not just film, no?
Not just
film, no?
photographs,
Objects, photographs, different types of film, right, Rica?
Yes.
16 VHS.
Lahat.
Yes, everything.
TV, my God.
iPhone.
So, yan. Oh my gosh, Tatay's iPhone. So yeah, we're trying to organize it's a type of workshop specifically for an audiovisual and film collection. We're trying to bring media experts and archivists to Baguio now, so they can help us really continue, because it's already existing. Abby has done a great job, actually. Abby should be in this group. There are so many other people that should be here. But yeah, anyway.
Total end of the world na, so we figured might as well archive stuff, right? Joke lang.
So, yan. May next pa ba? Wala na.
Ayun.
Well, here. Well, this is a more personal project. So, a few years ago, I started then my practice in conservation. So, this is a large scale painting in the old Sayote Hotel in Baguio.
Is it Sayote Hotel?
Yeah.
Sayote.
Imagine, Sayote Hotel. Ellen, and just Ellen.
Okay.
So, yeah, so restoring this painting. Yeah, that's all.
Galing.
Ano yung galing? Oh!
Sure. Tapos na.
Kawayan. Ayan, so we transitioned to Kawayan during lockdown. Ay, wait. Guys, we have questions from the audience, from Eileen Ramirez and Martha. Maybe we'll answer them later na lang at the end.
What do you think? Angel?
Yes.
Oh, later na. Just continue with the presentations.
Okay, sige. So, Kawayan now.
Yun. That's Moira lang. No, actually, after the mural, this would have been my first real break, like serious break. And yeah, we're all glad to have a little rest after that whole thing. But syempre, after 2 weeks, you're like sitting around and saying, wait, this 2-week lockdown is not 2 weeks. This is 3 weeks, and later it's 4 weeks. Di ba 2 weeks yung original?
Yeah. 2 weeks. Okay lang. Stay another 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it just went on and on. And Well, during this time, I decided to do portraits. I became a portrait artist. Next slide, please.
Wow.
Raya.
So that's Raya, Moira. I think I ended up with around 20
Oh.
portraits then siguro ako. Aside from aside from I also started the works on paper, also collab with Louis, which hasn't really started, but my bit has started. So I basically locked myself up in the studio. I decided not to put down my brushes after Sagada. And, you know, I just had that discipline and started to work in the morning. Surprisingly, diba? I'd wake up at 6 and go to the studio. You know, very baduy. Okay, there's Gail. And that's me.
There's you.
Are these portraits from photographs?
They're from
or
photographs.
live?
Yeah.
Photographs during lockdown lahat.
Live photographs. No joke. Yeah, no. Yeah. That's part of Louis, our collab with Louis, which also hasn't started.
Which is also a lot, right?
That's almost 100. I don't know,
Yeah.
siguro 100 works.
Do you think your process do you think your process of working was different during the lockdown than when you're not in lockdown?
Actually, not because we weren't really going out anymore before lockdown. So, but I mean, I started working in the mornings, which was strange. I guess that was only really big difference. But
Days were so long then
yeah.
during lockdown.
But we're lucky we got lockdown.
Anyway, what you see now is the show I had. So those portraits and then those works, small works on paper. I ended up with this show, which is ongoing now at the drawing room with Perry Mamaril, who I think is coming up next.
Take it
He
away,
there,
Perry.
Perry, my God.
Perry.
And Perry's another original Baguio Arts Guild member who was living in New York and Brooklyn for what, 11, 15 years? 20, well, 11 years?
20 years.
20, wow. Whew.
Wow. I never seen it this big, Perry. I never saw your work. We weren't there. We were the spirits going to our own shows. How is that possible?
Baduy.
Galing. Wow.
Perry, do you want to share your process and how you use indigenous materials in your sculptures?
Before I talk about that, before lockdown, we did that imagination with Kawayan. I was lucky to be part of that. Then after that Sagada thing, we are all locked down in Kitma and supposed to have a show in Boston Gallery in May, which was cancelled. So after 4 months of eat, drink, and sleep, party and bullshit, so we did this atang tikararua, which I guess I have nothing to do that time. So I just said to Kawayan, let's just do this. So after the atang,
you just decided. I actually forgot about July 16, no? And then I believe it was just a day before. Suddenly Perry was making a raft, and I was like, "What are you doing, Perry?" And he was just silently making his raft, and then by the following days we all chipped in and helped him out, and
that's it.
It was our first activity
outside.
outside
Yeah.
the house. I mean,
July
just-
16 is
outside.
Yeah,
And
the
it was,
first outing.
we weren't allowed
Right.
to even go to Burnham. But when we mentioned Atang, it's like the security guards
Know about it.
know about it and
amazing.
allowed us to.
Yeah, they gave us a few minutes to do the ritual. Parang, did someone mention na it was a yearly ritual for the victims of the quake that happened in Baguio in the early 90s?
Yeah, it was a yearly event before.
Yes. So yan, that's the Kitma guys.
Kitmagang.
Kitmagang with our raft. You can see all of the prayer flags and candles. This one?
Dungla.
The dungla.
Okay, the Atang is Perry, you want to talk about the Atang and why it's July 16?
Yeah, the Atang is started after the July 16, and
Earthquake,
most of
diba?
the Baguio Arts Guild members then before were like, headed by
Robert.
Roberto. Started this kind of event that started this kind of pinik-pikan thing, jamming, whatever. There's no drums really, but whatever you gonna beat on, and that's where the Atang Tikarar was started doing it yearly. After that,
This was because 2,000 people died during the earthquake here in Baguio. You're one of the heaviest hit. There you are, Angel, in the film of Rica and Egay, the shaman showman. We showed it also that night after releasing the rafts.
It's wonderful the way that the generations are coming together, looking at these images and seeing how the community in Baguio keeps expanding and getting involved, and that the security guards already knew. That's really cool.
We even had Ara with us, who was a minor, who wasn't allowed to go out that time, but he was able to take part in the ritual, in the offering.
I think over the years it's been happening. No one's really planning this thing. I think when Roberta died, some artists continued. Sometimes Willie would be the one to make a boat. Sometimes Rene would come out there. It was all very, I think, very spontaneous. And I think that's one trait that we have here. It's
simultaneous,
spontaneous and collective.
Spontaneous, yep.
So that one is of the first Atang, yeah? And this is a sketch that Roberto Villanueva, that's a sketch of something that Roberto Villanueva made for the Atang, is that right? The sketch?
Yeah. I think he based it on in Palawan.
Yeah, the spirit boat.
Rica, would you know about that?
Yeah. So I think he was inspired by a ritual in Palawan, and it's held actually on November 1. Because I was able to experience it. I couldn't understand him, but it happened in El Nido, and they would build rafts using old bamboos and dried, and then they would set it off the sea, and then they would burn it, and because the bamboos were already dried, they would explode, like boom boom. And since El Nido had a lot of like islands around, it would echo, and it was like fantastic, so only years after did I understand what Robert really wanted to do and why he did this Atang Tikarurwa.
Yeah, the guild.
Where's Tommy and Perry? Tommy, are you
Yep.
there?
Yeah.
Tell us the story,
Perry,
Tommy and Perry. This is like the early,
Yeah,
the
that's
beginning of
the
the guild.
cafe Dapay. Is where like you know, all the artists congregate because it was like we have a free coffee there, so free free merienda from Mama Sue. So that's all we congregate, and that's where all these Baguio artists gather.
Who wants to share about these images that the audience is seeing?
This is the greenhouse effect. This was one of the last projects of Santi. He converted a greenhouse at the botanical garden
Botanical.
into it's a mud house actually, no?
Yes.
And then he turned it into a
Gallery.
gallery. Well, I think it was his last 2 years of his life, if I'm not mistaken. This how Mayor Domogan opening the Baguio Arts Guild festival. I believe this one was in '95. He was mayor up to last year. Imagine.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did it come about that he was presiding over this? I mean, was he invited by the guild, or how did that happen?
Tommy, with you? I don't know. Maybe the bag received maybe a 30,000 peso grant, and because of that,
It really is, the Baguio Arts Festival, for the audience that may not be aware of the festival, which began in 1987.
Yes.
And, it was really quite an extraordinary thing where you're seeing the multiculturalism in Baguio, really multicultural. Maybe you guys can share a little bit about what the impact was on the community, because it's artist run, which is very different than creative cities now, right? I mean, in many ways, that this is an artist run festival that really had very little financial support. It was really coming from the energies of the guild and the community. So maybe you guys can share that a little bit with the audience.
Tommy, Perry.
If I may add, the Baguio Artist Group was the first name, not even before it became Baguio Arts Guild. And it was the idea of Ben, Robert, Santi, Kidlat, Dave Baradas. And we had our first exhibit, a group show at Cafe Amapola. It's actually a photo show. That's the first exhibit of the Baguio Arts Guild. It was then called Baguio Arts Group. And photographers involved which includes Alex Baluyot, Wig Tishman, Ben Cobb, Robert, everyone, even Babu Montañedo was part of the show. And I was the first Saling Pusa. Actually, Alex Baluyot convinced me to contribute some of my photos. It was my first involvement with the Baguio Arts Group then, before it became the Baguio Arts Guild.
Baguio Arts Guild sounds way cooler though. No. But the bag was very progressive, no. For example, for you, Tommy, photographs were not really considered an art, or
Yeah.
and you were showing photographs for Tatay and Sina Rica Egay. They were doing already independent cinema. For Santi was, doing a lot of mixed media. Robert using Runo instead of brass or whatever. And so I think the synergy, your synergy. I mean, I was a kid. I was the makulit guy destroying a lot of your installations, I believe. But there was some sort of magic that that you were able to convey, uh, and you took a lot from this highland Cordilleran culture, because I think during the time, perhaps being an Igorot was to be shamed on, and I think artists like you and Tatay and Robert were saying, no, let's be proud of our bahags, and maybe it's not just an old way of thinking that this culture is doing, but it's something that we can learn from. And in a way, you guys became ambassadors to that that path in connecting with these old ways and saying, let's value this. And I think, wow, you guys really did a good job. And well, it's unfortunate now that again, we're falling back into a tourist, what do you call it, ethno-tourist
Ethnotourism.
thing. But I don't know, Perry, Tommy, Rica, Egay, I mean, Angel also, all of you have a lot of fun memories of that, and maybe you can share some of that.
Well, again, I just to share with the audience that Baguio and the events that were taking place in Baguio from the mid 80s on, and even earlier, actually, like during the martial law time, the effects of these convergences of cultures, generations, different kinds of art that people were producing influenced other people, like the Black Artists Group in Bacolod. And these are the ones who founded the Viva XCon, which is now in its 30th year. And I can remember in 1988 at the festival then, sitting with Charlie Coe and Dennis Ascalon in the bar across the street from Cafe by the Ruins. Everybody was just so excited over the energy that was going on, that was so present during the festival. And the guys were just like, hey, we want to do this in the Visayas and celebrate Visayan culture and the arts. So I think that, again, the importance of the kind of community building, and it not just being around art, but it was really this celebration of these cultures that historically resisted a lot of the colonialism, despite the fact that Baguio was the summer capital of the American reign, right? And I think it's very evident again in the works that everyone is showing today during the talk. And I, for one, have benefited greatly and want to keep seeing you guys do more. I think some of the images that are coming up are dealing with access, or some of these right now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So maybe you guys can share about access.
Okay, I'll just then briefly introduce. We were, I guess we were all a bit naive after a long silence, after, well, Robert had passed away, Santi passed away. We had a few art centers in Baguio that were active, like, well, Vocas, and well, the ruins was still around, and Tamawan. And I think we had this idea to come up with a arts festival that was, well, that wasn't exclusive, It was going to try to attempt to bring the wood carver together with you know, a trained sculptor. Or it was trying to cross many borders, and that's why we called it Axis. Well, it's the meeting point, the ground, because there was no such thing. I mean, even in Manila, I think if you were part of a circle, you stayed in that circle, and likewise here, no, we all have our little circles of yeah, friends and groups and whatever. And so Axis attempted to try to bring this all together. Starting in 2011, I don't know, Rocky,
Yes.
maybe you can talk a little bit
2011.
about.
No, I don't know. I was just, I quit school then, and then someone invited me to become part of secretariat. And yes, I quit school indefinitely after that. But yes, I think from the get-go, it was intended to be a neutral space for the many artists, artisans, cultural workers, and performance artists, musicians, writers around Baguio. The programming was very, what was the word? Spontaneous. And then, yeah.
What's the program?
But there was no program. It was a lot of artists. It was 150 artists or more from the region, from other countries.
Yeah, we
Yes.
had Indonesia, we had Tamalagi, we had.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This is Rocky getting his first tattoo during a tattoo
Yes.
workshop. See,
No one wanted to volunteer.
Hand tap tattoo was popular, so Rocky said, "You know, I'll be the one."
But this is also, I mean, like the programming of things like this was always a dialogue between two worlds. Yung tattoo session na yun was traditional tattoo, and then someone with a machine.
Right,
so
right.
Parang sort of like what's the conversation there, like that.
By the way, the sewing of the tent took place 2 weeks before the festival, and we had gone around to different universities and asked for wagwag. During the guild days, they used runo and bamboo. Well, now the most abundant material is ukay-ukay. So everyone contributed.
Right.
That's great. This is something that Carlo Villafuerte was he working with the youth to sew everything together?
I think Carlo came. Carlo was working with textile already. I think he also participated here.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't create anything as beautiful or as intricate as Carlo. It was just like a spontaneous, you know, it wasn't like put orange next to blue or something, you know. It was just a spontaneous thing.
It's more of the process.
Yeah, it was about the process and about storytelling. And we were hoping this way we could gather audience for the festival, which we did. And I met Rocky really, you know, we became really good friends because of such things. Rocky, Dumay, Alan.
And many other artists.
And this is, I believe, during markets. Angel, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
So Markets of Resistance was, I guess on a personal level, was my give back to, again, this Baguio, to the city, to the people, to people who became my friends and invited me into this world that as a New York based artist, I, you know, was so different from what I was raised in. And this was a collaboration with Axis. Kawayan and I had been talking about it for maybe almost a year before it actually all came together. There were around 70 artists who participated in it from Baguio and Manila. The idea was to look at on one hand, the commodification of indigenous culture, And on the other hand, also to look at the way these cultures were coming together and the way that artisans and contemporary artists were working together. I brought students of mine from Philippine Women's University, and they did workshops. That's Jason Domling, who is there's Jason, who is a incredible rattan weaver and works quite a bit with not just with the Axis group and doing his own work. This is an image
here, huh?
yeah,
Oh,
the image before. The image before was a interactive photographic installation that Marta Lavina put in the.
We have a guest of horror.
Hi.
Hey, hey, hey.
Look who's here.
Look who is that.
Yeah.
This is Kidlat Tahimik, everybody.
Hi,
Our
Kidlat.
national artist, Tatay. Welcome.
I see a picture of the benevolently assimilated heathens.
That's Marta Lavina's work.
Including me.
So in Markets of Resistance, we had these market stalls for 3 weeks where. Thanks for coming. Where they could barter. The artists had the opportunity to barter what they needed or wanted, and using art to exchange, and they created artwork that was specific to the theme of Markets of Resistance. Kami Hafalla, Rocky, Kawayan, they took my students on these incredible excursions in Bontoc and Sagada. So it was really about, again, another kind of convergence of lowland highlanders and bringing these communities together. These images are from, is that right?
Yeah, no, I think
This is from the Katapunan.
this is in the Katipunan dog museum, dog eating museum.
Yeah. Can you talk about how this museum plays a role, which is pretty significant too?
Which?
What? If you back up a little bit, you can see some of the other activities, events that took place. Actually, before you want to talk about encyclopedia?
The encyclopedia already? Okay.
Well, it's here in front of me. So.
Okay. Rocky, why don't you talk about the encyclopedia?
Oh no. So the encyclopedia was a project that was supposedly the summary of Axis joining the Singapore Art Biennale in 2013. So it's sort of it's a book about many things about the Cordillera, anecdotes, little facts, things that explain, the necessary fictions that Tommy is talking about. And it also includes long essays on the 13 projects that were part of the Biennale at that time. So it's supposed to unravel this whole romanticism on Cordilleran culture. Cow?
Um,
Bilang cow? Yes.
You can scroll down, no, as like. So this is a sample of letter B in the encyclopedia.
So it's comprised of long, short, and medium-sized entries. Can you scroll down?
Si ST na lang. Can you scroll down the PDF? So it's sort of like an anti-textbook or a guide, parang your gateway to the Cordilleras, but not quite then.
Ayan. So here, the bag. So for example, the history of bag is written by actually 3 people, no? There's the early bag. Where's Tommy there?
Oh my
Hi,
God.
Willie. And then we have the short entries like I guess Baguio oil or the Baguio bean. And then stuff like the Baguio ghost stories. We have a lot of ghosts.
A lot of other artists contributed to this, like Frankie Callahan, photographer.
Tommy was very vital with all the information he shared. We asked, it was actually an open call, so anyone could submit information, anything. This was together with Frank Simatu and Padma Perez. People like Alan Carino also helped out. Baguio, you know, boots, stuff like that.
Boots.
Bose. Ayan. The long entries focus on the 13 artists or 13 projects that were exhibited in Singapore for the Biennale. It's Leonard's Bulol. Okay.
So bag and then
okay.
So this project of yours is quite novel, and that's an understatement. I mean, I think it's really a important project for many reasons because, you know, I mean, documentation wise, for people that are interested in the reality that archives are alive, they're not dead, and the encyclopedia is also in this incredible opportunity again for the histories to come together, and you're doing it your way. All the contributors in the encyclopedia, it's not being dictated by a formal encyclopedia group, right?
It's an encyclopedia because it falls in a crack. It's sort of a crack in between the academe and maybe Tommy's information, which comes from the DAPI, for example. So
and Frank's jokes.
What?
And Frank's.
And Frank's book of trivia, you know. But
so you will let the audience know when it's ready to come out, right?
It's ready. We just need the press. So anyone out there, you know, my number. Help.
Okay, so this is the last section before we go to the audience for an open Q&A. So Baguio Creative City.
Okay. I believe 3 years ago, Baguio was selected as a creative city. And oops, yeah, there it is. Yeah, which is happening actually now.
In its third in a year.
It's a good gesture, and Baguio does need recognition, but the festival is still, I think, trying to find its voice, its feel. I think it's still growing up and trying to develop how to go about this creative thing. I think Tommy would have a story that would, like, for example, the Pinagbenga, which the first bag festivals would also have some sort of parade and it was really nice, you know, with performances and stuff. But when these things are handed to the government and maybe I don't know, Tommy, would you like to continue? You're on mute, Tommy.
Yes, I know. Because I'm maybe one of the most controversial person. I mean, like when it comes to festivals. Again, it is part of the the necessary fiction, Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you if you could attach the government again into a community, an artist community effort, there's a very big difference. There's a significant change eventually that will happen.
Own changes.
Like during the Baguio Arts Guild, the city or the government was not part of it. It was just an artist collaborative work, and it went very well without the government. I mean, or the city. With the Baguio creative thing now, it's more government first than the artist.
Yeah, no, you don't really see the artists very much. There's not enough drunken people, you know. No. But I mean, it's formal, no? It's formal.
It's
yeah.
I
A
mean,
different.
It's a whole
process.
nother. I feel like it's been co-opted, if I can use the word.
Yes.
The spirit of the Baguio, the way people, creative people, and cultural workers within the community here have been working with each other for decades has now been co-opted by, DOT and other people in a way that corrupts certain aspects of celebrating, again, the multiculturalism, the spontaneity, all this stuff. And one of the things that I found quite upsetting was I think it was the first, and it was a thing in the newspaper about festival.
Angel, you're breaking.
And I thought it was so untrue. They weren't acknowledging the Baguio arts festivals. It was weird. Did anybody else notice that?
I noticed.
I think it's a lack of research.
But there was a very long prayer that acknowledged the presence of Jesus Christ, Allah, and Kabunyan also, which was very good. So, yeah, where are the artists?
Yeah. Okay.
Sige, Angel, can we go to the questions?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
And questions.
No, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Now it's the audience.
We're doing a bit of an overtime.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Boots?
Yeah.
Boots is quite a number of questions. So Boots,
Yes, just
take it away.
sorry, I don't have the questions because I had to log out earlier. So please
them one by one.
feel free to
Okay, so I want to start with a question from Eileen Legaspi Ramirez. Will Sagada Arts Center work as an artist-run space and have future programming?
Well, that's the plan. I think that's what the boy, you, Rocky, myself, the Sagada people, Bong, we're all trying to get it going.
Yes.
But I think the important thing we wanted to spell out was that it was gonna be benefacting the local people of Sagada, and also the local artists of the Cordillera, and not New York, and what I mean. So it was gonna be.
Yeah. I mean, the whole process of coming up with an art center that's focused on a residency in Sagada is, I guess, it's difficult because you're working with the community. And of course, the planning process has to also involve the community. Yeah. So that the programming, the question about programming and stuff is not just for the organizers.
Okay, so this is a question from Marta Lavina. Where do you see the points in this discussion converging, and the influences in your art process visually, philosophically, and physically?
Who wants to answer?
Well, Mark.
You all should.
It's a whole thesis.
Wow, manghirap naman.
Take a piece at a time, guys. A little bit at a time.
Well, we're coming together, aren't we, for this? So that's a start.
Thank you, Ateneo, for bringing this all together.
Thank you. You're welcome, and thank you too.
Okay. This is an interesting question from Lawrence Tang. Could the presenters talk a bit about exhibition spaces, which you somewhat addressed, but let's just ask the question about exhibition spaces, public, private, and commercial in Baguio. Have there been a growing number of spaces for emerging local artists to show their work? And is there a demand among locals to collect and support the work of local artists? It's a very good question. Thank you, Lawrence.
Okay, I don't know. I think there are a few spaces like Vocas, Ililikha, Tamawan, Bencab, a few other, but I think it's a problem in terms of the commerce. That's almost zero there. So I think that's why you were also answering one question during Markets of Resistance, no, Angel, where we turned market stalls into gallery space. I mean, into art spaces and transactions with bartering over the cash. Thing. And yeah, I don't know if there is really a venue for.
Although I have to say, like coming from Manila, that's one of the few things that I appreciate from Baguio. In Baguio is that Baguio art isn't market driven. It's not limited to galleries. It's not. It's not limited to because I worked and practiced in Manila forever until I moved here. So that's really one of the things that I noticed here is
it's lifestyle.
The practice is a lot more diverse. So it's not limited into like being in museums or being in exhibitions and galleries. It's more like a lifestyle. Art isn't just about paintings hanging on gallery walls. It's based on practice and rituals and like even the objects, the
exchange,
even the ritual, the objects in itself are art, are artwork itself.
And a lot of art happenings.
How do you guys, in what ways do you think you could encourage not just potential collectors, curators, people in the business part of the arts, but the community themselves? What ways do you think you can encourage people to be more mindful and to create more opportunities for people to sell their work and for locals to buy the work?
To sell. Because the currency is not really like, it's
what's the currency, Gail?
No currency. Art. It's not, I don't think it's,
I think it's more of an experience, I don't know, maybe an experience that, you can see how diverse this group alone is. And I think that was one thing we're celebrating is the diversity of our friendships and backgrounds we have are very different from one another, but somehow we still manage to function and respect each other grow and learn and yeah. So
I guess the answer is to create more spaces of involvement, and the Creative City event, the opening of the exhibition sort of opened up a bit to that, but it's really not as it was when, say, for example, we did that Access thing in 2011 where artists could just come in and do whatever they want.
Oi!
Hi, Perry.
Turn the light on for Perry. Okay, so thank you guys for addressing Lawrence's question. And thank you, Lawrence, for your question.
Thank you, Lauren.
Elizabeth Lagarda has a question for Tommy. You said the elders must first acknowledge or pay respect to the spirits before they begin any celebration or even just play the gangsa. Do you think this practice is what is seriously lacking in modern lives, a respect for the past and for our ancestors? Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a haste to tear down heritage sites and buildings.
Yes.
Exactly, for Babette. I mean, like, of course, we need that respect, especially the elders. Even if the elders are so silent about, I mean, like commenting on, or they get offended when bringing the gongs were just nothing, playing it. But there again, to avoid conflict, these elders would try to say, I mean, keep their silence to avoid conflict, further conflicts to people who use them. I mean,
yeah, I think it's a problem all over the world. No, this lack of respect from the elders. I think there's something. This cord is being cut from all cultures all over the world, and yeah, everything is becoming homogenized and this fast pace. So all these old things, Tommy, were saying, I don't know how long they will. How long will these things be practiced? Diba? The way you play the gong, the way you dance, what you eat, how you eat.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like there's in Kalinga, there's a very specific gong to call for rain during dry season or drought. So there. I mean, a lot of people don't know the difference between, it's just a plain gongs that sounds, I mean, good when you hit it. But it is, again, it's for a certain purpose. That's what's lacking now. I mean, like we do things without a purpose, without getting through. I'm sorry. I mean, if I may.
But I think this is exactly what, in a very small way, this artist talk is trying to address, that each and every one of you are people who are engaged in not just trying to keep these cultures and practices, traditions, histories alive. You are actively, you bring yourselves, it lives through you, if I can use that expression. And, I mean, Perry, maybe you can provide an example of the work that you did in New York, in being able to share some of this culture, the Cordillera culture, with New Yorkers, right? And we are really invisible folks in New York or in the United States. So I know we can't see you very well, Perry, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Brooklyn's in the house, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, living in New York is quite a rat race, but I managed to introduce my artwork against the light. All right, against the light.
Yeah.
Nagluto ako eh.
Oh my God!
by cooking. Yeah, that's my
Very fed up
cooking.
you well.
Ha?
Very.
Ano ba luluto natin dyan? Oh,
Ano
kumukulo
yan?
na. Ha?
Nakakaloka.
Right.
So, anyway, I introduced my art in New York pretty well because my workspace is in a restaurant. So, the clientele of the restaurant is my clientele. So, there's a lot of audience in that space, especially in Soho, New York. So, I really did introduce a lot of, especially, I really introduce my Filipino-ness because I'm not a painter. I'm uh, I'm a craftsman. I do sculpture. I work on bamboo. So I really introduce what's the
What's
what a
natural?
craftsman. So
Right.
Yeah.
so I
Thank you,
guess
Gray.
so I guess I introduce it well.
Mhm. You certainly did. Sharing across the waters. Wait, there's another question. Wait, okay, I'm just gonna make this comment. This is for Eileen and Tess Roncis. Hi, Tess. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to address this because it's been somewhat addressed earlier in the conversation regarding the Sagada Arts Center. It's still, my understanding is that it's still very much in the process of becoming. It's still
Yes.
forming. And the Bong and Rica, who were primarily speaking about the center, wanted to talk about the center in relationship to the rest of the theme of the talk in terms of how people are converging and building these communities and sustaining them. So at a later point, perhaps someone can get in touch with both of you about whether or not there'll be a residency program and resourcing for it. So thank you. Sorry, let me just, okay. This question is from Ijira de Vera Perez. To the young aspiring artists who are probably feeling discouraged to go on with their crafts, having seen many people either displaced or between jobs, what advice can you give, especially during these trying times? Good question, Ijira. Thank you. Rocky, anyone?
I think it takes a lot of I mean it's hard. But then, you get through it. You choose a path and then you make your way. You have to keep jobs, then keep them. Yeah. Not very encouraging.
Gail, did you want to?
No, like a lot of us are displaced, or a lot of us are, in between thing. But yeah, just find the.
I think the making is outside of that.
I just kept on beating the drum in the studio, Just, I think you have to challenge, channel your energy on something. If not, it's going to bounce back and hit you in the ass. So I think you just have to focus on what you're doing and not really not think too far. And I think we all have to be content with a more simple existence, a meaningful one too, So
I mean, like at some point I was also asking myself the same question, but I think it's the best time to be healthy, the best time to be, do what you want to do.
Yeah, I
Rika.
think
No,
Healthy you are.
I think it's really important for everyone to also try to find within themselves the positive light and the positive energy that people have been creating since time immemorial and before there was monetary currency. And we all know that we need to find ways to survive, but the creativity comes from within and goes out. And I think we just, again, this panel is like a beginning to trying to share across the generations different ways that people have been surviving, thriving, expressing themselves. So I really hope that, Yajira, you do not lose faith and that you just keep doing what you're doing. And as my mother always says, the money will come. There's a question from Danielle Ramos. Could you delve into the purpose behind the restoration of Santi Bose's mural? How was the experience of multiple artists of diverse backgrounds restoring the work of a single artist? Good question.
The purpose, Rika, what was the purpose?
Well, because it faded already. Because of the elements of like the sun, which is a major factor. Even when restoring, it was greatly considered. So when we were doing the restoration, we were able to meet some people who would tell us like, oh, it faded a long time ago and we tried to restore it. But since that's Sagada, which is very far from having all art materials, they would pick up people who would know how to draw or paint, and then they would try to restore. But then I think they were using, of course, inferior, maybe even watercolor. And of course, after the rain, the whole thing would fade again. So we had multiple interviews or stories that went like this. And in fact, after the redoing of the mural, months after, we had to again restore it because of the sun. Some areas again faded, no, especially the ones that were set on wood. So it's always this thing. That's the reason. And then of course it's also maybe you finding the right set of people to actually honor Santi Bose.
If I may, I'm glad that was the last question, no? Because that was actually one question I had in mind when we went up there that evening when we saw the mural. Because theoretically, if you talk about restoration, there are different schools of thought, and I love the idea. I think it was Kawayan who said that Santi really had the concept of having it updated by other artists, and I think that is a very an open concept of restoration, no, which is rooted in the culture of your culture, your community. So yeah, I think that that by itself already redefines the concept of restoration. It's something that opens the possibility for other artists to collaborate, no, even if after he's gone. No? So parang natuwa ako dun sa ganung yung concept working in a museum, because we always have to go back to the original intent of the artist. But for Santi, apparently it was not important, no. I mean, it was the community that was the reason for him to create that, no? The community of Sagada and also the community of artists.
Mhm.
Yun.
Ganda naman, Boots.
Yun. Thank you.
Salamat.
So maraming salamat. Thank you, Angel. Any last words?
Salamat.
Sorry. I just wanted that. Thank you. And also to Bong Sanchez, who has left us. I think the connection in Sagada or wherever he is, is very unstable. No? So, but I'm glad that he was able to join us earlier. Also for Boy You to make that special appearance, and for Tatay Kidlat Tahimik. Yes, for joining us also. Thank you to everyone, Tommy, Rocky, Rica, Gail, Nona,
Thank you.
Kawayan, and Perry from your
Maraming salamat. Do what you do best.
So just to inform our viewers, attendees who are still around, Kawayan and Perry are featured artists in the drawing room in Makati. So please check it out. They're beautiful works.
Any publishers out there?
Yeah, and I'm having an upcoming show in December 12th, drawing room also.
Another show.
And also the ongoing show at the Baguio Convention Center.
Okay. And when
wait, also,
yes, Vika.
Also, for anyone who wants to watch videos of the Baguio Arts Guild in the past, the festivals, you can see it on YouTube. Just type
great.
Baguio Arts Festival.
Great.
Wow.
And then
so that's more videos, movies to watch.
I just want to share two things. Tommy Hafalla has a beautiful book called Ely, which is actually it is for sale at artbooks.ph in Manila, in Mandaluyong, and I believe it's also for sale at Mount Cloud and at the Cab Museum. So if you would like to see more of Tommy's work, you can see that there, as well as the Not Visual Noise catalog. I might as well plug everything.
Which we opened last year, exactly a year ago. We opened the exhibit exactly a year ago.
And just to say, you know, I've been accused many times of privileging Baguio artists, which I find absolutely fascinating because it's not personal. It is about work, and it is about the visions of the artists from Baguio who I've been fortunate enough to be able to include in the exhibitions that I've been doing and other multidisciplinary projects. So yeah, I just wanted to say that publicly. And then one last plug will be for the Markets of Anthology, which will come out in 2021 by Ateneo de Manila University Press. So everyone, please support all the efforts of people up here in Baguio and come up and visit when things get relaxed. Everybody stay safe, be well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just read a comment, the last comment from Eileen? Maybe the tending of the Santi mural will become some kind of an annual pilgrimage and converging point. Thanks and good to hear and see you all. Yep. Looking forward to the encyclopedia. So let's help Kawayan look for a publisher.
Hey!
Okay, so thank you very much to everyone who
Thank
stayed with us for more than 2 hours. We are thankful to all the artists, of course, to Angel as well, for this last 2 hours of engaging, sharing your personal experiences, your creative projects, especially during the pandemic. Obviously, the last 9 months have challenged everyone, but definitely brought out the best, no, in our creativity. So thank you. I'd like to invite everyone also to go to our next two events. One is this Saturday. We are making a formal announcement of the winners for the Marciano Galang Acquisition Prize and the AAG KLFI Essay Writing Prize. This is on Saturday, 11 a.m. We're going to hold short 1 hour online event. And our last ArtSpeak session is on December 9 with artists focused
Last for
on
the year.
focusing, yes, last for the year. 2020 is over, thank God. But we're ending it with a panel of artists who are also educators, all based in the Visayas. So
Nice.
that's on December 9, 3 to 5. So thank you and have a good week.
Thanks, Ateneo.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ateneo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can